What would you think Ben Shapiro's latest take on Charlie Kirk's death would be about? If you guessed all about defending Israel, you would be correct. If you guessed attacking Muslims, you'd be correct as well. You wouldn't think that was possible to spin this event and make it about attacking Muslims and defending Israel. That takes talent. For many reasons. Number one, no one is blaming Muslims for this one. People are saying maybe the shooter was a far right activist, a far left figure, a trans person. Like all possibilities are open. But like, Muslims are in a different conversation altogether. Maybe they weren't empathetic or supportive of Charlie Kirk for obvious reasons. But we are talking about the assassin now. Somehow, Ben managed to make a 1 hour podcast about how Muslims are the bad guys in this situation and how Israel is awesome.
I can tell you, my mind goes to two places: radical Muslim, white supremacist. Those are usually the options if there's a shooting at a synagogue. If there's a shooting at a church, your mind now goes to trans radical or radical Muslim.
Let's talk about general, violent ideologies. Starting with Islam. What? And notice the common cause here because, Muslims are shooting up churches all the time. All these Muslims shooting up Catholic churches everywhere. And he keeps talking about this for a while. Then he shifts to talk about Mahdi Hassan, and like the Muslim apologist who appeared on Jubilee a few days ago, and how he leads people towards ISIS. Again, my point is not to refute these points. My point is, what the fuck are you talking about? Is there anybody out there connecting this murderer to Muslims?
These people tried to join ISIS because of shortcomings in American society. That's the ideology that I'm talking about, that generates actual violence. That is the ideology. Mehdi Hassan, this was Mehdi Hassan some years ago saying that non-Muslims are animals. Should we use that as a way to gauge whether or not he has elevated the debate?
And we never lose the moral high ground. If we know anything of Shia of Muhammad, of Shia of Ali, of Shia of Hassan, of Shia of Hussein, we know that keeping the moral high ground is key. Once we lose the moral high ground, we are no different from the rest of the non-Muslims, from the rest of those human beings who live their lives as animals, bending any rule to fulfill any desire.
We can play this game all day long.
Again, why are we talking about violent Muslims exactly? Why are we quoting Mahdi Hassan from 20 years ago? I'm going to reply to this in a second, but his intro into this, his segue, was that people were celebrating his death, but people who were dancing on TikTok, these teenagers, they're not Muslims. Muslims, for the most part, were apathetic to the entire situation. People who were like dancing in crop tops, yeah, not very Muslim. Regarding the clip that he just played, yeah, Muslims don't see other religions as animals, unlike other religions, we'll get to that. But Mahdi was saying that when you live your life chasing pleasure, chasing carnal desires, yeah, you're living like an animal. That makes perfect sense. It's in Islam. If you're a Muslim who lives like that, you're living like animals anyway. And since you brought it up, I think there is one religion that in its codified doctrine, it says that people who are non-followers of said religion are animals. I'm not sure what this religion is though. I have an inkling that it's not Christianity, and I'm damn sure that it's not Islam. Are we allowed to talk about this on YouTube? Because in a second, he will start making arguments about how free speech of a certain kind is actually a call to violence and shouldn't be allowed. Only one specific type of free speech.
There is a conspiratorial strain on the right that needs to be called out here. And the people who have associated with this and promoted this, let's just say you've made a massive moral error. Ian Carroll, who's been promoted by a wide variety of larger figures. He was on Joe Rogan's show. He used to host Candace Owens' show. Ian Carroll yesterday was tweeting out in the middle of the search for the suspect that actually, what was happening here was that Israel had assassinated. I know, it's like a game of Clue, but you can just skip right to the end and say it was Israel. Of course. Ian Carroll tweeted, yesterday was a turning point for Israel-U.S. relations. Less than 24 hours, and the internet already figured out who the most likely culprit was. He was their friend. He basically dedicated his life to them, and they murdered him in front of his family. Israel just shot themselves. That person was hosted by some of the biggest hosts on the Podbro man right. That person was elevated from obscurity, deserved obscurity, to prominence to promote this kind of horseshit. And that was going around a lot on the internet yesterday. You had people who are literally part of disinformation systems, like legitimate Iranian disinformation systems, suggesting to the retweets of millions of people, literally millions of people, that Charlie was assassinated because I was on Charlie's show the day before and he asked me questions about Israel.
It was the Iranians behind it all. Wouldn't you know it? You know how those Iranians are known for manipulating public opinion through social media and technology and algorithms? They are good at spying. The Iranians. For the record, I don't believe that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. But if you say anything else, you're an Iranian mis- or disinformation agent. And what happened to free speech, Ben? What's wrong with Ian Carroll having a voice on Twitter? Or being on Joe Rogan talking about various topics for 3 hours and about Israel for like 20 minutes or less?
Social media is benefiting the worst people. They're generating the conditions for violence. There's no question that that is the case.
Ban them all. Social media is getting out of hand. People are saying things they're not supposed to say. You see what he's doing here? During this entire podcast? He's defending Israel because that's what matters to him. And remember, this theory about Israel, it's not being taken seriously by authorities or anything like that. It's just a theory on the internet. It's not even a leading theory. But let's put another theory on the table. Muslims had something to do with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Maybe. You see what he's doing here? He's creating a Pavlovian connection in your head. You know what that is? Let's just keep talking about Muslims in relationship to the assassin, who had never heard of Mahdi Hassan, I guess, I assume. No one is accusing the assassin of being a radical Muslim, anything like that. But we will connect it to Islam somehow. We'll find a way. You can't connect anything to anything. You know that, right? Kevin Bacon kind of way. So let's keep talking about Islam when we talk about this assassination. Why is that? Because the next time you hear about a shooting or an assassination or something, your mind should go to Muslims. So the next time America supports terrorism against Muslims all over the world, you should be okay with it. Because Muslims, they're crazy, they're terrorists anyway. You know, I've heard the word Islam connected to terrorism before, more than once, so there must be something there. There's no smoke without fire. And people will eat it up. People believe him. Just go into his comment section. Anyway, please like and subscribe.